Yeehaw! Welcome to Racing Dudes live coverage of Oaklawn Park. And Mike, we've got some rain here in Southern California. Ain't nothing like what they're seeing out there at Oaklawn Park right now. We've got Aaron Halchman live. He's on mute because it is a little noisy there, but he's there with our good friend of the program, Shotty. The sad part about that, no Shotty in the chat. She usually keeps things nice and lively during the live shows. But Mike, let's not bury the lead any longer here. We'll wait till Aaron, when they do the post parade. Aaron's in a great spot for us. But Mike, you're red hot at Oaklawn right now, buddy. Woo!
Been a good day. I wish I structured the tickets on the Somobombs in my own a little bit differently. I had all 5 of the last winners. The pick 5 paid $8,000, $8,800. Luckily, 3 people who bought the grid played it. So people are cashing some tickets there. Like the pick 4 that just ticked came in for $1,100. So that's solid. So we're trying to keep it rolling here. We're 4 by 2, and then we got that single in the Archibred race to get the Magic Mike Show ticket home as well. So see what we can do, man. The pick 3s are paying a lot right now. So hopefully we can get through this race. And I got to say, I'm surprised right now. The one horse, we talked about this, the one horse Effortlessly Elegant, 20-1 on the morning line, bet down to 5-1 right now on the board. So taking a ton of action there. And not as a very live long shot, although not as long as we were hoping for.
Yeah, well, especially for you. Speaking of long shots or price changes, I should say, the Dwayne Lucas horse that won to kick off the late pick 5, I was against because I don't want to play that horse at 5-2. Well, you tell me the horse is 4-1, I might change my opinion on Spankster a little bit. And then last time I wasn't going to use Chasing Time, so I would have been out either way. But tip of the cap to you. Get the horse goes home. 9-1, I think, on Chasing Time. So you're getting some very nice payouts. If you're watching the Oaklawn Park live feed right now, they are still saddling the horses, getting ready to bring them out shortly. I could not help but notice, Mike, Irad Ortiz Jr. and Steve Asmussen getting real buddy down there. Maybe Steve doesn't want to talk to Joel. He had his back to him the whole time. But he shouldn't be upset with him because that was a hell of an effort there for Chasing Time, Rosario, and Assman last race.
Yeah, I mean, look, that last one was interesting. You had the 10-4 left who was really fast early, able to get to the lead. You saw Golden Hornet run a monster race because Golden Hornet had to get asked from the start, was able to squeeze through the rail, and then fought back down the stretch. Actually looked like might be able to get home to win. Osborne came up on the outside, and all of a sudden Chasing Time just split and closed like a freight train to get there. The race set up perfectly for the horse. It's been interesting because you want to be forwardly placed generally on these Oaklawn days, but we've seen quite a few horses be able to come from off of the pace. And that's going to be something we got to talk about a little bit here as we go into these last 2 races where there is quite a bit of pace in both of these. So it looks like it is playing toward a horse like the 7 horse here, where I know we both had this horse on top in this spot. Wet Paint should be able to get a trip, and the track is playing nicely here.
Yeah, and you're going to see the 7 come out here on the second. Like I said, Aaron's down there right on the apron next to the tunnel where they're coming out. There's the 6 Take Charge Brianna, a big long shot for the coach, and Michaela Michelle riding. There she is. There's the 7 Wet Paint, winner of the Martha Washington over a very, I'll say, similar looking course. The rain was a lot heavier when she won last month, but there you go. You've got the 8 Defining Purpose for Kenny McPeak, 12-1 off of a 9-2 morning line. Maybe this is the right range for McPeak. Boss Lady Bailey going by a long shot at 55-1. Do you want to dance? Oklahoma bred coming to Arkansas. Olivia Twist will be on the screen. There she is. And then the last one will be Taxed for Bejarano and Randy Moore. So we're talking about it. Wet Paint is the 7-5 favorite. It makes sense. She's got the win over the local track. The track is playing, like you said, 2 closers and horses coming from off the pace. With that in mind, is Wet Paint still going to be your top pick here?
Yeah, I think she's just the best horse. And with the way the track's playing, that win over the win over this track in the Martha Washington, like you mentioned, she seems to be all systems go. We're getting a little bit short on the price, though. We're not at a spot where I'd be betting to win at 6-5. I think you try and play her on top of exactas or tries and see if you can get something done there to juice up the price a little bit, because 6-5 is getting a little bit short in this spot for such a big field. And these are 3-year-old fillies. We've seen in a lot of these races, you don't always get the effort you expect. These are younger horses. You can see large improvements. You can see large bounces off of these. So sometimes it's hard to really project those forward. And that's why that 6-5 price scares me a little bit now on Wet Paint.
Let's talk about Condensation, the 5 horse. I didn't use for Chris Hartman. I don't believe you did either. Correct me if I'm wrong. But Dr. Miranda was very excited about this horse and his chances. Maybe not to win, but possibly to hit the board. What do you think about the 5's chances in here for Chris Hartman?
I mentioned it in the preview we did for racing, or I did it for the YouTube page there. I kind of agree with him, Miranda. Like, the horse took a nice step forward last time out. That was the first time over a muddy track. This is the daughter of Frosted out of a Tisnow mare, so bred to love the slop here. biggest issue is that horse went gate to wire when being able to get to that win. We're not going to be able to go gate to wire today. However, has been able to pass horses in the past. So I think the condensation is one of those that you want to look for underneath. Maybe play it to round out your tries and your supers. But on top, I think it's a little bit too much to ask for this spot.
Hey, she is still in the chat. Shadi is joining us after all. Big fan of Gambling Girl, the New York bred. Interesting that hey, there's Shadi right there, making her appearance on screen. And again, still not turning doesn't want to be on screen, Aaron. Gambling Girl, like I said, New York bred. It is interesting that Pletcher brings her here instead of keeping her in New York to even run at Aqueduct. Distance might be a bit of an issue, but it is very interesting that they show up here with her, Mike.
I like Gambling Girl a little bit. This is the one of the 4 I've used in my pick 5. I think she makes sense, especially if you're expecting this to be won by a closer. She's been able to come up from off the pace and win multiple times. So horses just seems to be getting better, slightly ticking up in both time form and buyer numbers as we go. Ran well on the slop, 2 back in the Demoiselle, which is the first time against facing open company. I like the cutback a little bit. Look, she's been running at 1 1/8. Now we get 1 1/16. I think that'll actually help her. She's won twice at 7 furlongs. So that shorter distance isn't an issue for her. She's going to be rolling late. The question is whether or not she's going to get the trip and be able to get there. But the fact that you get Irad, you get Pletcher here. The horse was 12-1 on the morning line. Got bet down a little bit in this spot. Currently sitting on the board at 5-1. Yep. So again, another shorter price here off what that morning line was, but makes a lot of sense in this spot.
And if you are joining us real quick, just want to say thanks for joining us here. Let us know who you like in each race. Of course, there it goes. Aaron's going to start losing speed in a second. Let us know your tickets for this race, for the next race, if you want to play a pick 3, anything like that. No wrong answers. We'll start off with our good friend Ed Burke. He's got wet paint on top over the 2 Towhead, the 4 Gambling Girl, the 10 Do You Want to Dance, and the 12 Tax. Let's talk about Towhead. I was interested in her in this spot. Mike Maker coming in. Isaac Castillo was a pretty great, pretty underrated jockey, I should say, at Oaklawn Park. What do you think about Towhead's chances, the 2?
I think the price got a little more interesting for this horse. It's one that we talked about quite a bit on the show, 9-2 on the morning line. With all the money that we've talked about coming in on the 1, coming in on the 4, coming in on the 7, the 2 horse is the one that is floating kind of up a little bit. The 2 and the 3, 2 horses that are going to be more forwardly placed, not taking nearly as much money, much more attractive win bets than they were necessarily before when the form came out and when you saw that morning line. I think Towhead has a legit shot here. Should sit a very nice trip right behind the speed, be able to make a move, should be able to save ground on both turns, which I think is very important on a track like this. So it's all about the trip with Towhead, but it makes sense here and has run second over and off track as well. So if this 2 keeps floating up, I mean, look, 7-1 on Towhead's a lot more attractive to me as a win bet than 3-2 on Wet Paint is right now.
Oof, boy, she's taking so much money. And again, it's logical why she's taking money. We're not saying she's a bad favorite. We're just saying at that price, I'm with you. At 3-2, boy, if you knew what these prices were going to be like, you really wish that you'd structured things a lot differently with your tickets and such. By the way, once the race is over, Aaron Halterman is really close to the apron there, so I'm sure we'll be able to see the horses coming back afterwards if he's not too busy celebrating and running to the window to cash his win tickets here. Let's talk about another horse that somebody brought up, Michael Osen, big friend of the show, big fan of the 8, Defining Purpose. And again, I talked about this, Mike, 9-2 morning line. We don't want to touch a McPeak like that. 13-1. Are you interested now?
You got to explain to me what's going to change between the Martha Washington and this race, because the Martha Washington Defining Purpose was forwardly placed, had some pace pressure. You're going to see that again here. And Wet Paint rolled right on by without really being asked. Now you're getting 7-5 on Wet Paint today, 12-1 on Defining Purpose. So you're getting the right price flip if you do want to play the 8 here in this spot. To me, it's still just a little bit too short, especially with the other speed that you're going to see in here. Defining Purpose is going to be 2 or 3 wide here heading into that first turn, and then going to have to pass a couple horses and hold off the closers. That's a big ask here for a horse that was not able to get it done, even though last time out Defining Purpose was the favorite. You're getting a short price. Now you're getting a big price. This is the race to bet Defining Purpose, not the last, but it's still a tall ask here for Defining Purpose to try and get home.
And Curtis Manlow brings up a great point. Kenny McPeak off Lasix is almost auto fade for him at this point. To bring that up, back at the end of 2022, she did win a mile race, the year's end stakes for 2-year-olds, and she was on Lasix for that race. Came back for the Martha Washington. You saw her fade late. I think a combination of that, Mike, plus the fact that we're now going longer, when I think with her breeding, a mile is probably her limit. Underneath, probably great. You could see her, try and set the pace or stalk the pace. And then when everybody starts fading, she'll probably get caught by wet paint in another closer or stalker. Maybe she holds on for the bottom of the tri or super. And again, at that price, I think that's the time that you want to take her.
Yeah, and look, she could be a very logical horse here for third or fourth. I mean, that's what's really interesting about this race. You could make an argument for 6 or 7 of these horses pretty easily on top, and you could make an argument for probably 8 to 10 of them pretty easily in your tri or your super, including some nice prices. So this is a race where if you like a horse, I like the idea of putting one horse on top, playing 3 or 4 underneath in the tri or the super, be able to spread out a little bit, get yourself some coverage, and get some decent prices there underneath of it. This is a really interesting gambling race because if you can find a way around wet paint, all of a sudden there are prices everywhere. And even if you like wet paint, and let's say you play a 7 over 1, 2, 4, 1, 2, 4, 1, 2, 4 super, that's still going to pay really well, even though it is 4 of the top 5 choices in the betting public because of how many horses are in this field and how many options people have to go to.
Jason Hommel says, in Todd, I trust. I'm with Shoddy on Gambling Girl. 12-1 morning line, 5-1 right now. I mean, part of that has to be the connections, right? It's Irad, he won 4 races at Gulfstream on Thursday, won 3 more on Friday. Had a bad beat in the maiden race earlier today for a McPeak horse, ironically, that was bet down to, I think, 3-2. But, you've got the connections in the Rapoli stable angle as well. Tell me more. Why is Gambling Girl going to win this race, Mike?
Well, it's the setup. It's the off track. She should love this off track. She's running on it twice. Both times she's hit the board, cutting back from 1 1/8 to 1 1/16 a positive. You have speed in front of her, so she should be able to close in this spot. And then you have the best jockey in the world right now. Irad puts his horses in position to win, and that's what you're going to see here in this spot. So there's a lot of reasons to like Gambling Girl. Now, there were about 7 more reasons to like it when Gambling Girl was 12-1. The 5-1 price makes it a little more difficult for me to get really excited. And this is one of those spots where, hey, I'm happy I have Gambling Girl in the exotics, right? In my pick 5s. I'm not sure I can bet her here at 4-1. I think she's more logical in that second or third spot, but could sneak up and snipe this one late at the wire.
If you are watching this again on YouTube, thanks so much, or on Twitter. We really appreciate it. Sorry, Facebook. I forgot which ones we're using these days. Aaron and Shoddy and Kelby Van Hemel, they're all at the finish line here at Oaklawn Park. Great shot. Aaron's going to show us when they come running by the first time. Aaron, it's up to you if you want to stay in for the second time around, because I know it's very hard, especially a big race like the Honeybee or say the Rebel. It's going to be really hard to hold that camera right there the whole time, but it's up to you if you want to do it. We can go for it. Chris Miles says, I wouldn't bet Gambling Girl with stolen money at 5-1, which means she'll probably win by 4 lengths. So you've got a good one there. Paulie777 says, feel a long shot winner coming on. If there's a double, they're going to the gate. Let's see what happens here. Good luck to everybody. Mike and I will let you know what's going on with the race here. Let me see. What's the best setup? You want to try that one? No, let's just go full screen here as they come running by the first time. Loading everybody up into the gate. 7-5 now in wet paint. She's come back down. She's going to be my top pick. Who was your pick to win right here?
Look, I have wet paint on top at 7-5. If I was putting in a win bet, I'm probably going to the rail here. I've talked about Effortlessly Elegant on a couple shows already. We talked about it on the Magic Mike show, talked about it on Dudes Who Bet Daily today. Fact that she's getting bet down from 21 to 6-1 means she's even more live to me. Should love the stretch out. It was a $475,000 purchase. If I'm betting a horse to win right now, it'd be on the rail. I'd take the 1.
Looks like we're just about loaded up here. We got 2 more horses here. We're waiting for the 11 Olivia Twist, about to go in for Todd Fincher, and then Tax will be the last horse in, walking into the gate. Good luck to everybody playing. We'll let you know what's going on with the race, but enjoy watching they're off. They're about 5 seconds behind or ahead of Twin Spires too. That's kind of funny.
5 here.
Wow, look at that lead the 5 has.
Going right after it here. The 3-horse Grand Love is going to be on the inside. Grand Love was a horse that was hyped up into the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Filly. She's not able to make the lead here for Rosario, but I kind of don't mind that stalking trip for her. It's just whether or not she's going to be good enough sitting there and being able to handle the distance.
I will hand it to Rafael Bejarano. He got taxed out of the gate and over. She is sitting in a great position, stalking at 32-1 here, 23-1 on condensation, or 21-1, I should say, on condensation as they go down. Grand Love is not on the lead, and Rosario's choking her back.
No way.
It's got to be frustrating if you liked her.
Yeah, it does. I mean, you see Tyler there, the 2-horse getting a great spot. The 1-horse bet all the way down to 9-2 from that 20-1 morning line. Pratt's got the 7 in a little bit of trouble here. Wet Paint on the rail, third to last right now. That's not the easiest place to get out of. They went first half, and they're 48-1. So they're cooking pretty good up front for this distance.
They are. We'll see if he ends up doing a rail skimming ride here. Aaron's going to have them at the finish line, by the way. So stay tuned. Keep watching with us. We'll throw that back up when they come off the turn. Actually, I'm going to have to watch his screen because they're a little bit ahead of what we're watching through this. Wet Paint's going to have him. She's going to look for an opening. She's got one. But, well, I will say in the Martha Washington, I thought she was done by this point too. But we'll see how that rail looks. Let's go with Aaron here. We'll go full screen as they come by. We got a lot of people clapping. This is going to be interesting. Condensation is holding on well. Almost took out Grand Love. Wet Paint's going to get it. Wow. Look how good Wet Paint is. Look at that.
Man. And here comes Galen trying to get a piece like Wet Paint. Really impressive. Great race from Condensation to be able to hang on for their second there as well at a big number. 21-1 gets the second space spot.
And hats off to Dr. Miranda. She loved that horse. She even texted me, said, I don't know that he wins, but big fan of that horse. She's knows some of the connections pretty well. There's going to be an inquiry coming probably from there because Condensation did duck out just as she was about to get passed by Wet Paint. She ducked out. It looks like she interfered with Grand Love. Or was it the 12? Was it Taxed who came out? I couldn't quite tell. We're going to get a replay here. No, it's the 5.
Yeah, the 5 came out pretty good there.
Yeah, the jockey, Francisco, and then came back in on the 7. I missed that the first time I was watching Aaron's screen.
Yeah, the 5 just got tired. I mean, that's all it was. I mean, it's tough to 139. They slowed down quite a bit for those late fractions, but very impressive performance there from Wet Paint. And it's interesting. We talked about this last week, how it was frustrating that you didn't see these horses come back and fire. Wet Paint looked awesome there, and she got it in gear late. But this was a mile and a 16th. If she stretches out and is able to do that, she is going to become more and more dangerous if she can hold on to that kick at these greater distances.
And yeah, everybody in the chat's agreeing. Big victory. That was even better than Martha Washington because they were going like you're stretched out a little bit, mile and a 16th here. Such a good effort there from that filly. That's so cool. We've been waiting for that, right? For a filly to really step up and be like, I am going to be the division leader. I think it's hard to argue that it's not Wet Paint right now. I don't know. As far as a possible inquiry here, Condensation, would you take her down? She was tiring, and when Arietta went with the left hand, that's when she ducked way out, and then he corrected her and she ducked back in. It's hard to argue, but it looked like she did throw Grand Love off of her path enough. I think we need a head-on officially to see it. What do you think, Mike?
Yeah, we're going to need to see a head-on here. Grand Love also ends up running third, which doesn't help Grand Love's case here. If Grand Love ends up running fourth or fifth, I think it's a pretty easy DQ on the 5 because the 5 costs the 3 a spot. I'm not sure the 5 costed the 3 a spot. And like you mentioned, 5 came out, but then ducked back in and kind of messed with the 7 a little bit, and the 3 was not able to push forward at all. Now, you could argue that the momentum was stopped from the 3, and that's the reason why, but I think it's going to be tough to take the 5 down here without seeing that head-on.
Yeah, Pratt was talking to Arietta when he went by him as they're walking back. Oh, you're fine, Aaron. Tell her she's fine. She's not blocking, and we can't barely even see the top of her head there. Boy, it's too bad. Oaklawn, the winner's circle. You're not close enough, Aaron. We'd love to see you a little bit closer. You're not doing enough for us on the slash.
Well, I'm sure they'll walk by. We'll get one more view here, and it's going to be great when we see him come out here. It's going to be fun.
Apparently, Andy Serling was very much against Wet Paint based off Curtis Manlow's comment about Wet Paint making Andy Serling look silly. It doesn't take much for that man to make himself look silly. At least that's how I remember. He blocked me several years ago when he found out I was with the Racing Dudes. But your official, and one more thing I want to talk about, your official winner, well, she will be Wet Paint. The final time they went from the mile to the mile and the 16th, the finish line there, Mike, they went 6.1 seconds. I think she might have been either 6 flat or sub 6 seconds in that last 16th of a mile. She was flying.
Yeah, see, that's what's impressive about her race here. I would be really interested in her internal fractions, not the internal fractions for the race, because they went pretty quick up front. We talked about 48 and 1/2. Well, they went the mile in 139. That's not that fast. But Wet Paint was nowhere near that 48 and 1/2, right? She probably ran the half and closer to 50, some maybe even 51. If she went 51 and then came home, that means she was running 12s from the half all the way home. That's very impressive, especially over this track right now. So I thought it was great. And your point is excellent, right? They came home in 6 seconds there for the last 16th of a mile, which lines up to those 12-second quarters or 12-second furlongs, right? Which is what you are looking for from a Derby champion, not even necessarily an Oaks champion, from a Derby champion. So she ran phenomenally there. Obviously, we're going to need some pace here for her if she's going to win the Oaks, because she is not a horse that is quick, has a quick turn of foot early, but she is, I agree with the chat here, definitely a legit Oaks contender. And I would guess if you put out a poll right now, because we're all reactionary, she would be the Oaks favorite if you did. I still kind of like Hoosier Philly, because I'm willing to excuse that last race. And hopefully this means you get a lot better price on Hoosier Philly moving forward. But Wet Paint was by far the best 3-year-old filly we have seen run a race this year.
Aaron, I'm going to play back out, but let me know if you want to actually jump on, if you want to talk to us live from the track there about what you saw. Shoot me a text. I'll let you know, or you can let me know. Man, that is I can't get over how great of an effort that was. One thing too that I like about this, Mike, her effort here, you called it when they were going into the far turn. She was second or third to last. This was a field of 12. She had to beat 11 other horses. When she gets to the Oaks, it's going to be 13 other horses. So the fact that she went 2 turns, overcame being way behind, she got a dream rail trip, but she did this now 2 races in a row here at Oaklawn. I mean, there's so many things that are positive where you could say you have a good argument for, well, somebody says, well, she didn't, it's going to be too hard, too much traffic, blah, blah, blah. No, not this. Maybe her downfall, Mike, will be if it ends up being a fast and try Churchill Downs track.
They left the 5 up. 7.534 officially. Exacta pays 43.50. Try pays 156.05. Super for 10 cents pays $180. Not a bad return there with your favorite on top because of how competitive it was underneath, and because of the 5 there, Condensation, who gets home in second at a big number. Yeah, look, let's talk about the Derby last year, right? I mean, Rich Strike's rail trip versus the Pletcher's one horse, Modonegal, right?
Yep.
Right? Who had to go 6 wide, and they were basically shoulder to shoulder down the backstretch, right? That makes all the difference in the world when you have these bigger fields. It's all about the trip here. In Wet Paint, Flavian Pratt was super patient with her. And the one thing I would say for her that you don't see with a lot of closers on dirt, she's got to turn a foot. You see it on turf a lot where they kick it into gear. You mentioned it. Oh, we're at the 8th pole. I didn't think she was going to win last time either. When she got motoring, And that is a very, very good thing. It means the jockey can be much more patient with finding a trip. Pratt didn't panic there and try and go wide because he knew he had that acceleration even when they're going a mile and a 16th. A lot of times in dirt, the closers are grinders, right? Versus the closers having a huge kick. I'm not going to saying she's Zenyatta, but Zenyatta was an example of a dirt horse with a huge turn of foot. Wet Paint has shown a very nice turn of foot in her last 2 races, which makes it easier to avoid the trip trouble if you're the jockey.
Shadi says, how the 5 avoided an inquiry escapes me. I really thought, there was enough of a weaving and troubling of other people. Do you think they at least would have said, we're going to look at it again, but they never really did that. Pedlo asked, pretty good race for her. Did the 1 or the 4 have an excuse? 1 being effortlessly elegant, 4 being gambling girl. I'll be honest, once they got into the far turn, all I was watching was Wet Paint, so I couldn't tell you. Mike, did you happen to notice? I know you liked both of these horses.
Yeah, the 1 didn't have an excuse. Sat the rail the first turn, was probably about 5th or so, and was on the rail in front of Wet Paint going into the second turn. Couldn't handle the distance, couldn't handle the horses. That's sometimes what happens here when you jump up from the maiden special weight level all the way into graded stakes company. So it's why you see that 20-1 morning line. It's why, you look at that. The horse took a ton of money. So I'll be really interested to see how she comes out of this, because 21 morning line going off at 9-2, first time against winners in a graded stakes race is a ton of money came in. And so a lot of people thought that horse was very live. The 4 horse kind of ran a race. Like, she's just a little slower and goes outside. And I mentioned the grinding closer versus the turn of foot closer. Gambling Girl is a grinding closer. Wet Paint is a turn of foot closer. Gambling Girl had to go wide on the turn and had to just kind of try and make up ground late. She was able to do that, able to run up into, I believe it was 4th there, but just, not good enough to be able to get the job done with the way that Wet Paint ran. If you look at the 2nd through 4th, very close, right? But never going to be able to catch the 7 there, Wet Paint.
Let's see. Once they have the replay available, we'll go ahead and throw that up here. I don't think there's any issue with us showing the replay. The race is already done. We'll do that so we can try and walk through. We'll see what happens. We'll trial and error. In the meantime, the biggest race of the day is next. That's the $1 million Grade 2 Rebel Stakes for the Derby. Curtis Manlow reporting Giant Mischief and Reincarnate open at Co 2-1 favorites. Oh boy, we're already in that position where Reincarnate, 16-1 winner of the Sham Stakes against what, 3 other Bafferts. Well, he's now the 2-1 favorite.
Well, that's going to change a little bit, though. Favorite in the Daily Double is the 1 horse Verifying. Your second choice is the 5 Giant Mischief. Reincarnate, your third choice in the doubles. And then you have both the 3 and the 4, Red Route 1 and Gun Pilot, who are co-4th choices. So I would expect you're going to see the 1 and the 5, and then a little bit of a gap to the 6, and then a little bit of a gap to the 3 and the 4 from a price perspective here in the Rebel.
Let's see. Chris Manley says, if Gun Pilot doesn't win, I'm going to have to triple down on Jake Paul. Oh, boy. And I don't like Jake Paul's chances in that boxing match tonight. I don't know. God bless you. Good luck to you if you end up doing that. Chris Mello wants to know, did he miss the Taba bashing session? He's got jokes. Chris, throw them in the chat. We didn't really ever talk about it, but if you throw in some good jokes, we'll bring it up and talk about it.
That was almost too bad to believe this morning. Like, Taba never looked comfortable and was just awful. And like, it's sometimes you're just like, what happened? Like, how is it that bad? Because we've never seen a race that bad from Taba. Maybe the Derby, I guess you could say the Kentucky Derby wasn't, but even there, he ran a little bit. He didn't run a lick this morning in Saudi.
Yeah, not sure what happened with that. You hate to see it. It would have been, I think, honestly, I would have enjoyed him fading like that more if Country Grammar hadn't accelerated. I've never been a Country Grammar fan, but that, other than when we tried to draft him fancy just 4 years ago. But I will say that that he was really the only one. Yeah, Bree says, any love for Country Grammar now? Yeah, he was the only horse that really closed that whole track. It was impressive. All right, so you see right here, the one definitely blew the break. Didn't have much chance from there. It was a sprinter stretching out after beating Maiden. So really at that point, it's kind of in a lot of trouble. You were right about Gambling Girl. She's right ahead of Wet Paint there.
Yeah, and you could also probably make a case here that the 1 didn't like the kickback, right? I mean, that's the other part of it, because this is the first time she's gone from sprint to a route. Now she's getting a ton of mud in her face. You could make a case that probably wasn't the best thing for her. She did go win over the mud last time out, but was in front the whole way, so never faced this type of kickback here. And you can see she's going to be in front of the 7. The 4 horse is going to be right outside of the 7. And it's going to be a tale of 2 trips. The 4 is going to go wide and kind of grind around the outside of the field, where Pratt saves every inch of ground because he trusts that kick that he has on Wet Paint. And that's exactly what happens when they go down the lane.
Should Flavien Pratt relocate to Oaklawn? I feel like he does much better here. Now, granted, I know he's only running on stakes horses for Cox usually, but I feel like he usually does better at Oaklawn than he's got as many wins at Oaklawn as he had at Santa Anita since December 26th.
It's funny. The guy who says Pratt is the best turf jockey in the country wants him to go to somewhere with no turf.
He's not the best any jockey. He's not even the best jockey in his family. His wife's probably still a better race rider than he's been doing at Santa Anita right now.
All right, so now
she's a jockey, but I say that because she's a jockey. So
if you want to keep an eye on the 7 there, she is going inside of the 1. The 4 is now going 5 wide, right? So there's the tail of those 2 trips. And the 7 is still on the rail there. And this is what I mean by the acceleration. As soon as Pratt puts his horse in position right here, the burst that you see is just phenomenal. I mean, just comes right on through the 2. And the 4 you can see is making up the ground all the way out wide. But because of the trip difference, 4 never really has a chance to get to the 7. But that's still a nice turn of foot from a dirt horse. That's not, you don't see that a lot from dirt fillies.
I'm glad that we were doing this with the replay, watching it. Gambling Girl, I think, was the second best horse in that race because of, if you watch her come off the turn and the IRAD went 5 wide like that, and had really so much more distance to try and carry. She might have been the second best horse in that race. That's a horse I'm interested in playing back next time out. That's for sure. And I didn't use her in this spot, but I would definitely probably consider her next time.
She's also going to be a little dangerous as they go further. The fact that Pletcher decided to put her in back-to-back mile and 8th races says she can handle the distance as well. So when you're starting to talk about Kentucky Oaks, things like that, where they're going to go a further distance in this mile and a 16th, she becomes more and more of a threat in those spots because that grinding style has more time to grind away, right? So be interested to see how this plays out. And yeah, the Wet Paint now, look, she's looked phenomenal over 2 wet tracks. We haven't really seen her be able to do this on a fast track yet. And so that the big question for her is going to be, does she catch a fast track next time out? If so, does she have that same turn of foot? And are you willing to take a short price? Because you're going to have to take a short price over a fast track next time out. And if she checks both those boxes, all of a sudden she is going to be your Oaks favorite.
Sorry, Dr. Miranda is asking me how close it was for condensation. She wants to know. She wasn't able to watch. She wanted to know how well her horse did here. Man, I cannot get over Aaron was very excited about it too. He did text me about it. I won't say verbatim what he said in the text message, but he's very excited. I want to watch this head on. So she's on the rail.
Look at where wet paint is in the orange cap versus where Pratt is on the blue cap. I mean, that's how big of a difference it was there. Now, this is where they almost looked at it. Doesn't ever cross in front of the 3. Definitely floats her out there a little bit. But the thing is the 3 finishes third, right? Not sure the 3 ever was getting by the 5 anyway.
Yeah.
And so that's where that argument comes in.
That head on there, wet paint's got a real paddling motion on that left front. I didn't notice that until today, but it doesn't matter. Actually, maybe paddling it. Maybe that's why she's so good on a wet track, Mike. She's got that big old oar just sitting there swimming right around there. Yeah, condensation was good. I don't know if I would take her stretching out further, 1 1/8 for the Kentucky Oaks. But however, if they do get a fast track and the pace sets up favorably for her, it might actually work in her favor. You see on the screen there, close finish for second place, 4th for Gambling Girl, but a very barely over Towhead. Wow, that is really close.
Well, one of the things I think we at least got to mention too, we talked about this in the Magic Mike show quite a bit, and we'll see this when the chart comes back. The winner was in last or second to last down the backstretch, right? Your second place finisher was on the lead. Your third place finisher was sitting in third, basically. Everyone else backed out of this. So I thought the 5 and the 3 both ran pretty good races, considering the rest of the pace is nowhere to be seen. The 4 comes from way back. The 2 came from off the pace. I think it's a pretty good effort there from both the 3 and the 5. Grand Love, I thought, ran a lot better than I expected. I thought she had a good performance there and was a threat coming into the lane, but just was not able to get by. Still, like, she shouldn't have distance trouble. I'm still a little concerned that she has distance. Maybe it's time to cut her back because she was very good going shorter.
That was great. All right, one question for you. It's not Oaklawn related, but you are the person to ask. Our good buddy Sylvain from Montreal, he's in Las Vegas this weekend, at least for the weekend. He wants to know best casino in Vegas to watch racing. Your answer.
All right, we're talking Strip.
I knew you were going to do that.
I like the Win. The Win is phenomenal for it on the Strip. You've got a nice little side race book. They got everything focused right there. MGM also does a very good job of that, the side race book there. If you're talking off the Strip, South Point is phenomenal. It's massive, has a ton of seating. The sports book's right there. There's a Steak and Shake right there. They've got 75-cent hot dog cart right there, and the poker room is right there. So if you're off the Strip, South Point all the way. Tell Mary Mike Somich said hi. She's awesome. She's the racebook manager there. And they take care of you. So South Point would be my pick here if we're going off the Strip. On the Strip, I like the Win. I love those chairs, love the setup there. And the drinks are stiff at the Win as well. So that's a win. That's a good thing. They also will give you drink tickets at the Win if you bet $20 shows and you parlay them. Show parlays if you want free drinks in Vegas.
Chris says, Mike with the lawyer, it depends. Answer is awesome. In this, I'll allow it in this instance because it was a good point to make, depending on where you're going to be at. Oh man, Russ says the hot dog cart's $2.50 now.
Oh no! See, this is telling you,
it's been a while since you were there.
When the South Point opened, and I was working in the auditing department, actually, it was 75 cents. Now $2.50 is a little steep. I'd rather go to Steak and Shake. One of those like hidden treasures of the Midwest, Steak and Shake, which is trying to expand out there. It's still a very good Steak and Shake burger, although the wait I heard is brutal.
I haven't been there in several years, but I agree with everything. And she said, by the way, I totally forgot. I'm wearing my Mutters shirt specifically for this day. It's great. Our good friends at OG the other side. OG Handicapper sent us some apparel. This was my favorite one. Mutters. Gotta love Mutters like wet paint. Last time I went to Vegas for the Breeders' Cup was 2016. I was going with some friends. I wanted to go stay at South Point and then just be there because I knew how awesome of an experience it was going to be if I got to do it. And they all wanted to be close to Old Town. Or downtown. So we ended up staying. We stayed at, I can't remember which one of the ones it was, but it was not. Don't ever stay at a downtown spot and expect a great experience for the Breeders' Cup. It's cheap for a reason down there.
Yeah, I mean, if you're looking for like off the Strip, good guy type trips, South Point and Red Rocks are both excellent for that because of everything they have. You also have dollar bowling after midnight at both of those places, which is phenomenal because if you're just hammered and you want to go have a good time, that's a lot of fun. In South Point in Red Rocks, one of the things about the local casinos is they realize they are competing for the locals' business. So if you're someone from out of town and you're going to those places, they will take care of you there as long as you take care of them. And that's a great way, as Curtis mentions here, just toss them a $5 and they'll give you a couple drink tickets. They're happy to do it because they want the tip and they're not paying for your drink. So also, little known fact, Vegas writes off all those drinks. Yes, tax write-off.
Okay. Well, that makes me even madder about how, it's the Strip. Don't ever go to the Strip casinos and expect to do well with that. Yeah, it's one of those things where if you've been to Vegas enough and you're not there for the entertainment and the spectacle and I go with my wife, I'm not going to stay at South Point. We're going to stay on the Strip or close to it. No, we'll stay on the Strip. But if you and I went, oh yeah, we're staying at South Point, baby, and we'll Uber to the Strip if we want to go get in trouble there, or hey, we go stay at Laughlin. Free, not that far away. A free drink ticket with every horse bet over 20, like you were talking about there. Sylvain's going tomorrow. I thought you were there. I thought you were there already, but all right, yeah, you got that. South Point has the better alleys.
Bowling alleys. I'm telling you, this midnight bowling thing.
That's right. The bowling second floor.
Yeah, because the bowling alleys never close, so it actually makes a difference. People care about the bowling, man. I'm not kidding. It's a drawing point.
I know there was a big that in the Orleans had big bowling tournaments, like nationwide bowling tournaments there.
Yeah. I want to pull this one up real quick too. Yep, that one. Michael's, excellent restaurant. There's a very good Italian and a good steakhouse in South Point. It feels like we're advertising for South Point at this point. if you're gonna go off the Strip, for my money, for bang for your buck, by far the best off the Strip casino. Usually the rooms are $70 too. At least they used to be, because the hot dogs also used to be 75 cents. So that might have gone up. But if I can't say enough positive things about the South Point if you're looking for an off the Strip casino.
Jason South says, I've bowled there a few times. Made more money bowling in Nevada than at home. Are you playing for frame by frame with somebody head to head in golf? How are you? I'm curious. Tell me how you're betting that, and while we wait for you to respond, Mike, let's go ahead and talk about how we're gonna bet the Grade 2 Rebel Stakes $1 million purse. 11 3-year-old colts. Let me move it up just a touch. There we go. 11 3-year-old colts going 1 mile and an 8, the same distance we're going to get for the Arkansas Derby. Mile and 16th. I apologize. Arkansas Derby be 1 mile and an 8. Your favorite right now, Giant Mischief, on screen right here. There he is. The 2-1 favorite right now for the Rebel Stakes. God, I keep on saying Arkansas Derby. Tell me why you like Giant Mischief, because he didn't win the Springboard Mile. He was second, and he's coming off a bit of a layoff here, Mike.
Yeah, for me, Giant Mischief, one of those horses that I thought ran really well 2 back, and actually ran well in the Springboard Mile as well. Ended up running second, as you mentioned. This horse's 2-year-old numbers, if you forecast the improvement that you should see into the 3-year-old season, Giant Mischief should be better than this group. You also don't have any issues with taking on winners before or stepping up in class. In my mind, Giant Mischief is the class of this field. Verifying coming in here with a nice win over the Oaklawn Park track. Gun Pilot ran second, who then came back to win. So I know a lot of people like that idea that that was a good race. I'm not sure how good Gun Pilot is yet. And that Verifying race hasn't really been proven against this level of company before. So there's more question marks with Verifying in my mind than there is with Giant Mischief. You're getting IRAD as well. I think that's a huge positive. He flew in to take this mount. This is a $1 million race. He's not messing around here. He could have made a lot of money at Gulfstream today because he wins 5 times a day there. And he flew over here to try to run this race specifically for Giant Mischief. I think it's all systems go for this horse. I respect Verifying. I just don't think Verifying should be anywhere near the same price that Giant Mischief is.
Giant Mischief, we didn't talk about this in the Magic Mike show when we previewed the race, but I guess one of the knocks is that I'm not a Giant Mischief fan. One of the knocks I'll give against him is that he beat Arabian Lion in his second career start. He was at Keeneland. It was on Breeders' Cup Friday. Arabian Lion was a 3-5 favorite at the time. Irad loved the horse. And we were all caught off guard by Giant Mischief because he broke his maiden on debut at Horseshoe Indianapolis, Indiana Grand. Coming into the fact that he beat Arabian Lion, we saw Arabian Lion has been terrible in his 2 starts since then. They were at 2 turns, but that to me, I'm not the race that he came out of. It wasn't a great one. I don't like the fact that he was second in the Springboard Mile in a race that didn't really produce anything. We haven't seen the winner of that race back on the Derby trail. I don't know if he's in training right now. If you wanted to use a horse underneath, kind of at a little bit of a price, who kind of catches your eye here?
See, this is an interesting one. The last race we covered, I thought was wide open, absolutely wide open, right? You could make a case for a bunch of those fillies. I think this is really, if you're going to make a case, you're doing it for Verifying the 1, Red Route 1, the 3. I think Gun Pilot's tough to make a case for the 4 because Verifying just laid it down against him. Giant Mischief, the 5, I think you can, and Reincarnate, the 6. Outside of the 1, 3, 5, 6, I just don't see this race being that wide open.
Aaron's back on the apron with Shoddy. They're starting to circle the horses. They've got them saddled. So again, once they come out for the post parade, Aaron will be. We're going to put you front and center there, so we get a good look at the horses. Verifying was my topic in here. Son of Justify, half to midnight Bisu. To me, should love the distance. The slop shouldn't be an issue. He hasn't faced slop like a track like this before, from what I am aware. There is, you could say, the knock that Florent Giroux is on this horse, whereas the other Cox, Giant Mischief, has Irad riding. To me, it's not too much of an issue. Verifying was winning with Joel Rosario aboard, and that was like the one horse that Rosario was able to, keep winning, or to ride to victory. So I thought that was impressive. He did beat Gun Pilot, who came out of that allowance to win his next start and then show up here. I like both of those horses. If I was going to do a straight exacta, I would do 1-3 on here. Red Route 1, the way that we just saw wet paint, Mike, it's so hard at this point to say Red Route 1 is not a legitimate contender. And you see that on the tote. He's 5-1.
Well, I think you hit the nail on the head. And the other reason why I like Giant Mischief over Verifying. I think Giant Mischief is going to be further off of this pace today than Verifying will be. And I think that's this race has a plethora of speed signed up. I think Frosted Departure in the 11 is going to force a lot of horses to go, because Frosted Departure has no choice but to try to cross over. And if that happens and you have other speed horses, they're all going to kind of get caught up a little bit. And you could see that low 23 opening quarter again and have the same setup we just saw in the fillies, where a horse is able to come from off the pace. Well, guess who's coming from off the pace? The 3 Red Route 1, the 5 Giant Mischief. Those are the two horses that I think benefit the most from a quick pace. I expect we're going to see a pretty quick pace early in this race.
Davey brings up that I sound like a fan of the Davey Shoddy fantasy horses. The two horses I use in this race for the pick 5 was Verifying Gun Pilot, and they have both of them on their fantasy team. What would be fun is if I lose this race with those two horses, they do too. So that's okay. That's a good thing. I'm willing to, I might have hedged my bets a little bit. Just kidding. It was funny how that worked out there. Curtis Manlow brings up a good point. Keith DeSormo still waiting for his yearly Derby Trail upset, and he's got confidence game 21-1 now on the line. He did beat Rocket Can back in Future Stars Friday, or Future Stars, no, Stars of Tomorrow 2. Future Stars Friday's Breeders' Cup. Stars of Tomorrow 2 card at Churchill Downs last November. Rocket Can came back and won the Sam F. Davis Stakes, a grade 3 race for the Derby Trail. Any interest at all in confidence game? You're getting a good price on him.
Look, if there weren't so much speed side on, I'd be a lot more interested in confidence game. I think that's the biggest issue here, is that he's not going to be lone speed. However, like the LeCompte actually has come back pretty decent. 2 fills ran really well out of that race. In a race there was a ton of pace and still was able to hit the board. The horse who finished 4th, Dennington, came back to win an allowance. Instant Coffee, probably one of the top 2 or 3 Derby contenders right now, especially considering who has ran. Excited to see Forte here in the Fountain of Youth upcoming. It's been made the morning line favorite there. We'll see a few more of these 3-year-olds come out now. But if confidence game weren't so pressured, then yes, I would be much more interested. But the fact that you're going to see a pressured pace up front, it makes me a lot more hesitant to play confidence game.
I wish there was a rewind button on Aaron's feed. And Aaron, it's no shot against you, but one thing I've known for years about Asmussen horses, when they are on wet tracks like this, Asmussen knots up the tails. The grooms do it, and they'll ball up the tail. And the reason is when they're running in the mud like this, there's a lot of kickback, all that mud. It weighs down the horses and it makes them heavier. When you end up knotting up the tail, it prevents the tail from attracting a bunch of mud, and the horses don't take on as much extra weight. The 2, the 3, and the 4 are all Asmussen horses. Those are the only 3 that I've seen so far with knotted tails. It doesn't mean one of those horses is guaranteed to win, but it is something that I thought was very interesting here. Whereas the Brad Cox horses, the 1 and the 5, didn't have that, and we haven't seen anybody else with that. So was that something, by the way, was that something that you knew? Did you know about that?
No, I mean, it makes sense. I mean, I've owned a racehorse who came back with a race horseshoe in her tail, where it got caught because another horse lost a shoe and it got caught in her tail as she was running. She came back to the barn with a shoe in there. So you see some odd things come back, not shocking. It makes sense. You don't want any extra weight. We talked about how weight mattered on the Magic Mike show. Enough mud can collect there that could actually make a difference. Although it's still a little bit of a stretch, but all right. I don't hate the idea. We're gonna get a good look at him here on the way back through to see these horses. Hopefully, Red Route 1 wins, Davey. I would love that, because then those pick fives would be nice and juiced up if we can get this 3-horse home here. A lot of these horses look pretty good. We haven't talked about the first Yaffert of the year yet. Reincarnate, the 6-horse. Coming in here from California, ran a really good Thoroughgraph. I know Jared was all over that Thoroughgraph number last night, texting us about it, saying, hey, this is a standout. P.S. He owns the horse in the fantasy league, so that might be part of the reason. What do you make of Reincarnate here? And do you think, again, that pace that I mentioned that he's going to be very much a part of is going to be what does in Reincarnate, or can he go gate to wire against this field?
Especially the way the track's been playing. Well, I shouldn't say Condensation almost went gate to wire. If that was a mile race last out, might have actually been able to do it. The one thing going for him here, Baffert was training him up until about the time that he shipped, or was at least covering his workouts there. Johnny V flew in for this. Now, it is worth noting that California is not having any racing this weekend because of the rain, but Johnny had to commit to this ride well before saying he needed to cancel. So you can't really say, well, he knew he couldn't race there. He looks decent on the track. I just had no interest in the sham, and he was 16-1. And you made this point perfectly. Multiple shows, including Magic Mike show, 5-2. I want nothing to do with him here. And Jared Jared brought up how great the Thoroughgraph was for him last out. Jared also reminded us, well, he had a terrible, an unbelievably terrible Thoroughgraph the race prior to that when he broke his maiden. So not a fan of Reincarnate. I never really have been. But that's all right. By the way, speaking of Reincarnate, Dennis, I didn't know you were there as well. Dennis says Cox was staring daggers at the 6-horse Reincarnate, and then he reiterated, all caps, daggers. So I don't know if that's because Brad Cox just hates the Baffert horses and everything, which quite possible, but I don't know.
Yeah. It's going to be interesting, man. I mean, look, Reincarnate won that Sham Stakes at 16-1 in a 5-horse field, and now you're taking 5-2 in an 11-horse field. I mean, that's just the water's a lot deeper too. This is a better field than we saw in the Sham Stakes. Considering, I mean, like Newgate, yeah, but I'm not personally not that big of a fan of Newgate, and so if you're not a huge fan of Newgate, he didn't beat much in that race based on how everyone else came back. So it's going to be a tough spot here for him to be able to take this field gate to wire, especially because, like I said, the 11's on the outside, going to show speed. Confidence game should go. There's speed in multiple early positions on the rail. I wouldn't be shocked if Verifying and Gun Pilot are both forwardly placed here. So it's going to be a race to that first turn. It's going to be interesting to see how they are shuffled there when they do go around that first turn.
Dennis confirming the only ones with tails tied, the 2, 3, and 4. I got that. Shadi saying right, and by the way, Shadi is standing just next to Aaron there on the rail. Shadi says Verifying and Giant Mischief both took a poop right in front of him. So there's your exacta. It'd be a very chalky exacta, but it could happen. It's so hard for me the way the track has been playing, the way we saw him last out in the Southwest behind Arabian Night. It's so hard for me to not expect Red Route 1 to, I don't know if he can hit the board, but definitely get up there first, second or third. I don't know about winning, so he could, especially the way we saw Wet Paint run. It is interesting that Red Route 1, powerful, both Asmussen horses, but his top guy at Oaklawn, Ricardo Santana, is on Gun Pilot. You weren't that big of a fan of him because you also were thinking that maybe the Verifying allowance race that he won, Gun Pilot was second. You were thinking, what if this isn't a good race? Then if that's the case, both of these horses are just no chance here.
You could make a pretty solid argument that the horse you can trust most is Red Route 1 in this race. That the 1 and the 4 have a lot to prove. The 6 is coming in from California. The 5 we haven't seen since a quote-unquote disappointing springboard mile. All of a sudden, the 3 is the only favorite that you can't be like, well, there's this knock and that knock. Yeah, he's not that fast. The pace sets up for him. He's run well in mud. He closes. His buyers are improving. His time form's improving. Like, the 3 horse has been the most consistent horse throughout this process up to this race. There's question marks with the others. Now, 3 may not be the most talented horse, and that's why we're seeing the prices where they are on the board right now, but has been the most consistent leading up to this.
All right, we're going to switch up the camera angle a little bit here. We got another guest to bring in. We'll hope that his internet's working well. You're a little pixelated, but I bet we can hear you just fine. Jared Welch is here. Jared, your thoughts right now on what you're seeing for the tote board here for the Rebel Stakes?
Yeah, this is going to be dicey. Can you hear me?
Oh, yeah, you sound great.
We got you. I wouldn't say great, but we can hear you.
I had to jump on. By the way, that Wet Paint performance was ultra impressive earlier.
Oh shit! Sorry, Jared.
Hey, it's not even. I'm getting kicked off without even trying. I do. It feels like you gonna pick 'em race because we like verifying, we like gunpowder or giant mischief, and like reincarnate. Kind of get your pick here.
Yeah, I mean, it's a similar price on all three. Verifying and Giant Mischief are going to go into the gate probably about both 2-1. Verifying at 3-1. Route 1 and Gun Pilot at 5-1. So those first five not separated heavily, but you're not going to see that 6-5 favorite in this spot. You're going to get a decent number on any of them.
Yeah, and I made mention last night to you guys, and also I posted on Twitter that how much of a standout Reincarnate is in this race from a thoroughgraph standpoint. Which is interesting. I mean, it's really not that close. With that said, he is such a. It seems like the pace is going to factor in with him, right? Or is it a case of is he just faster than the rest of them? Because sometimes we see that with these Baffert horses. You kind of wonder like who's going to be the pressure, and then it's like, oh well, he's just faster.
Yeah, I mean, he's passed one horse in his career. That's concerning if you're not able to make the lead. So it is going to be whether or not he's fast enough to be able to get it. Frost's departure is going to cause some trouble. I mentioned it on the stream before he jumped in here. That 11's got to cross over, right? I mean, that's his only shot at winning the race. And if the 11 from all the way outside is trying to cross over, that's going to cause some trouble for Confidence Game, Reincarnate, and anyone else on the rail who wants to try and go.
Yeah, and you also got to, to that point, if he doesn't, I mean, it's like if he doesn't make the lead, then all of a sudden he's running slop, he's behind horses. He's, traveled across the country to get. So there's a lot up against him to me. And we see this, time and time again with Bob Baffert horses that come to Oaklawn, especially. It's like, what do? Just go to the lead, right? And you'll see. I do feel like I do feel pretty confident that you're going to have to chase him down at the end. And so I do kind of like, if you think he is going to get caught playing like a 5/6 straight, which isn't too creative, but if you do think he's going to get caught, I do like the 5 to do it.
Apparently we missed it. Asmussen told everybody that Powerful, the 2 horse, is going to go to the lead. So you could see the 2 and 11 go off. And if Reincarnate is getting bookended from both sides going into that turn, it's going to be pretty tough for him here. What kind of a trip do you think Giant Mischief gets, Mike?
I think Giant Mischief wants to sit mid-pack, probably 6th or 7th, and be about 6 lengths off the lead. Look, it makes a lot of sense that 2 is going to go. Asmussen has 2 horses that want to come from off the pace, Red Route 1 and Gun Pilot. You want to guarantee there's some pace in there. You got your least used jockey of the 3 riding Powerful there. I think it makes a lot of sense that you're going to see basically a rabbit here for Asmussen at a big number, 53-1 right now on the board. Why not go out there and cause some trouble and set it up for Red Route 1, who's probably your best shot here to get the job done. Giant Mischief want to sit mid-pack and come from off the pace and make one big kick around the turn and make a big run. Probably have to try and run down. I mean, look, I could see this race playing out pretty simply where the 2, the 6, the 11, the 7, all are forwardly placed and kind of go out there. Verifying's going to sit behind him. Verifying will probably try and make a run around the turn and get the lead top of the stretch. And Giant Mischief and Red Route 1 are going to be barreling down toward him. And it's whether or not the 3 and the 5 can get by the 1 in my mind. I think that's the big question here. I like the 5 Giant Mischief on top. I like the 3 Red Route 1 in second. I don't hate the 5-3-1 cold try. If you want to try and sprinkle in a price there, if the 7 decides to sit off it, the 7 could stick around for a while. Play like a 5/3-1-7, 3-1-7 try, something like that.
All right, they're going in the gate. We've got Aaron Halterman's live feed here, so we'll throw that up. Final picks. Jared, I'm going to go 1-3. What about you?
I'm going to go give me 6-5.
6-5. All right.
I'll take 5-3.
5-3. I got 1-3. Yeah. All right. So we're all like it. Well, we think Red Route 1's got a chance here. They're all in the gate. Let's wait. We're going to watch and see from here. Aaron Halterman's got them. And he froze. Come on, Aaron. Get better internet there at Oaklawn.
2 is being hustled, and Reincarnate is third to last.
Oh, boy.
I am shocked. Oh, man. Look at that. Confidence Game. I'm sorry, Giant Mischief, a ton of trouble into that first turn. Ended up fanning 4 or 5 wide. I'm surprised he was so poorly placed.
He's settled. He's going to sit right outside of Verifying. Verifying is in third. Giant Mischief sitting out fourth. No question about it. Powerful was hellbent on the lead, and Frosty Departure went with him. Michael Osen, you could not have called that any better in that position. Red Route 1 is not on the screen. He just disappeared from the live feed. But to be fair, Wet Paint was in about the exact same position at this point on the backstretch, Mike.
22-4, 46-1. They are up front here. This is begging for a collapse here. Anybody could win this race based on what they're doing up front right now.
It just and a 6, it just doesn't seem like one is hating this track. I mean, that seems very clear.
7 is moving nice, confidence game on the outside. He's been able to sit from off the pace. We'll see what happens here. Verifying kind of in a tough spot there, not really able to
he's got trouble.
Get going. And here comes Red Route 1. He's on the screen.
There he is. He's going to fan out wide. Come on. Verifying has got no room at all. Jesus Christ, Flo. Wow. Confidence game. Confidence game by open lengths.
Come on, 3. Run him down late. Run him down. He's tired.
Whoops.
You're going to finish second again. Damn it.
That's what he does.
Wow.
That's his thing. You can't pick him to win, Somich.
Wow. Oh boy, that was something.
Wow, he was.
Who was it? Was it Curtis Manlow who brought up Keith DeSormo's yearly big upset? Where is it? I'm gonna go find that damn.
By the way, the 6 made a huge run to third. So I mean, that was a horse that clearly did not like the track early on or whatever. Didn't like the kickback, but definitely had some run late.
Yeah.
You can't pick Red Route 1 to win. You just can't. That's just plain and simple. That makes you wasting money to put him win. But you can put him second and third every time, and he's going to help make you money.
Oh.
It looked like let's see when they get to the wire here. We'll talk about the winner in a second. We're lamenting all the other. Verifying got up for fourth. Never let Flo ride that horse again. He had Flo at the top of this stretch was like fading, and he's looking around for room. Like, well, you dumbass, get off the rail like that. Don't just sit there behind a McPeak that we know is going to fade pretty heavily. All right, let's talk about the 7 confidence game. I did not see that coming. I don't think most of us saw that coming. Curtis Manlow did. Said Keith DeSormo to do for his yearly Derby upset. So we got it here. What did you guys think about that horse there?
I mean, I said it when they went 46-1. Anyone can win that race. Like that's just, we saw this in the Derby last year. When you go that fast and you're going this far, this early, things just blow up. Like it becomes almost a random number generator at some point because you just don't know how some of these horses are going to handle it. Confidence Game ran a really good race, was semi close to that pace, was able to get there and get forward and be able to hold off Red Route 1, who just kind of got close, but not enough juice late and too far back. This to me is just another one of those races where like, I don't want anything out of this. Like, and you could make an excuse here for Verifying, who was close to that pace and didn't have a ton of room and ran okay afterward. But if this is the top of the crop, I feel like we're in trouble.
We have an objection. It doesn't affect confidence game. The 3 Red Route 1 and the 6 Reincarnate is who's flashing on screen. I'm going to guess Johnny V called foul on Red Route 1 and Christian Torres. I didn't see anything, but I was also just kind of laughing at what was happening with confidence game down the stretch. Boy, that's got to make us feel better about Rocket Can. The Sam F. Davis winner lost by that much.
Instant Coffee just keeps getting flattered left, right, and center. I mean, we don't talk about Instant Coffee that much, but like Instant Coffee just keeps getting flattered. And so you gotta like that. I mean, I mentioned this, I don't know if I said it on a live show or said something else. Brad Cox has a lot of horses. I'm not sure any of them are that good. Like Instant Coffee is the only one I'm semi-interested at this point. The rest of these Brad Cox horses just keep running back and not running well. He's got a ton of okay horses, just doesn't seem like there's a great one in there.
Oh, I see where the objection, it shouldn't be on Red Route 1. There was a horse that came, Red Route 1 was outside of Reincarnate. There was a horse inside of Reincarnate who came out, and actually Reincarnate got, well, the Railbird says got molested. Definitely not a great, a helpful bump there, I should say, to get hit. I didn't think Red Route 1, he held his path the whole way. The inside horse came out, bumped into him, and then I can't tell from the head on what horse that was.
Yeah, so that's Reincarnate then. And yeah, I agree with you. I thought Red Route 1 stayed straight there. The horse to the inside was the one who came out. I can see why he's lodging a foul. I mean, I might as well try, but the white cap here on the head on is directly behind the 7, stays in his path.
Yeah, it's that brown cap.
Yeah.
God, he did.
You know what?
Got killed there.
Good effort there for Reincarnate. Better than I expected. I thought that Reincarnate would end up doing what Giant Mischief did, which was just kind of fade in the stretch there. Yeah, I don't think this gets changed.
It was a sneaky good effort and not a good effort race, you know? Like, it was just like, that was okay. You know, a lot of these horses, like, just give up when they don't think it's going to go. So at least you had that. You know, the horse actually gave a little effort there at the end of that race. But, you know, Somich touched on a lot of things that I all agree with. Like, I don't know that any of these Cox horses are very good. I don't think I want. I know I don't want anything out of this race. It's like every week goes by. Thank goodness Forte's back next week, right? Maybe he can right the ship. Maybe. I mean, it's like I've never. I guess I'm sure there's been years, but I can't remember a year where it's like 2 horses that we have yet to see run, Cave Rock and Forte, continue to look better and better every single week, and they have ran 0 times this year. That's how bad I feel like this crop is. And to touch on confidence game, just a touch. We talked a little bit about the source, obviously on Blinkers Off. I made a case for him underneath. Never thought he would win. Just the fact that this horse was bet pretty hard in the Lecomte, you know, the instant coffee flatter, and then I also, you know, Rocket Can, the 2 back. So it's like, you know, maybe the change of scenery helps this horse get up for second, or third, but to dominate here, it's just, I think that's just par for what we have been seeing this year.
Yeah, I mean, look, if I asked you who is the best top 3 3-year-olds that have run, I mean, it's tough to even put that list together right now. I mean, your Instant Coffee's probably on top. Hit Show probably makes the list somewhere. I think Tap It Trice is probably on that list, although he's never faced Stakes Company. So you still have a question mark in that spot. It's exciting. We're getting Forte back next week. It's going to be interesting to see what he's able to do down in Florida in the Fountain of Youth. But it definitely left. There's still something to be desired with this 3-year-old crop. And it's funny, we said that every week. It's just, it seems like a broken record. But we've consistently seen the horses that we were hoping would really push forward and become stars. None of them be able to take the reins and become that star we want.
Well, yeah, and you know, to the Brad Cox conversation, it's like, man, it's like every week it feels like you're like letting one of your horses, Victory Formation, just do it, and you can be like one of the top horses today. Giant Mischief, go out there and do it, and you can be one of the top horses. And it continues. And even when Brad Cox doesn't win, he wins with like the long shot last week, and you're still like, I don't know what that was. Yeah. So it's like, I don't know how you get any grasp whatsoever with any of these Brad Cox horses.
I don't know. I kind of like your future book, Bill. I don't know what price you got on them. I'm sitting on Instant Coffee at 66-1. It's one of the horses we talked about on the 4 long shots to bet on the website. If the Instant Coffee ticket could be pretty good, because I think you really can't argue he is the best prep winner so far that we have seen out of this class as a 3-year-old.
Rob, King's Barn is going to run, sounds like, in the Louisiana Derby. So, I mean, I guess Instant Coffee, that's who you're going to have to face. That's the only threat.
Yeah.
None of these other horses are very good out there.
There's a long list of future claimers who are looking forward to the Louisiana Derby right now. My biggest issue with Kings Barnes, he didn't debut till he was a 3-year-old. He did it in January. You, to me, need to be as good as Justify to go out there and win the Derby without never making a start as a 2-year-old. He just doesn't have enough of the experience, the foundation. By the way, if you were at Keeneland September auction 2 years ago in 2021 and you had $25,000, you could have bought the winner of the Rebel Stakes, who just cashed for $600,000. Keith DeSormo bought him for $25,000. Mike, I think you make more churn than that on a normal NFL Sunday. That's
a heck of a purchase. Put it that way. And then to be able to have to actually be able to have DeSormo also train it and get this one home, wonderful buy. And this was a mess of a race. It's interesting because like Reincarnate, I don't know what to do with out of this race because Reincarnate misses the break. But then when you have the pace setup that it almost is favorable to miss the break. And then he's able to rush up and make a move. I'm worried that you get overly excited over Reincarnate here when the pace set up for him to be able to run into it, right? But I kind of wish Reincarnate broke better, so we had a better idea of whether or not that's a legit horse or not, because it's hard to say when they're taken out of their game that much how good this effort was.
Let's see what the. Oh, sorry, go ahead, Trey.
Well, I was going to say that I think at least, like I said earlier, you can at least hang your hat on the fact, and especially in a crop that we're like scratching our heads at, like we would take anything at this point, where at least he did something he hadn't done before, right? He was behind horses, he went way back, was in the mud, and he still fired, and he still came with a run. Now maybe he's still not very good, but that says a lot with what we're been dealing with in our crop. It seems like as of late, so maybe you can at least trust him to run okay, no matter kind of where he's at in the race. So I think you take something out of that with him, but still, like I don't know that you can sit there and say, well, if he gets a better trip, he wins. So
be interesting to see how he gets bet off this as well.
Michael Osen had a 3.761 super. You had verifying in fourth. He got up there late. You just needed Red Route 1 to keep going there. You would have gotten that one. I did see, who was it? Curtis Manlow? Somebody did actually hit the exacta. Had the set. Yeah, it was Curtis. Keyed Red Route 1 with the 1467. That paid $134 for $1. So congratulations to you on that one. Ed Burke, I saw you needed the 3. You would have been alive to half the Arkansas bred field next time out.
If
question from Ryan.
The last, I'm going to be pissed about Red Route 1.
We're gonna have another special guest come in here in a second. Here, let me go ahead and send him the link. It's not Aaron. He had a question that he was gonna I was gonna ask you at the end here, but he wants to come on and do it himself. Oh, Curtis did it in the $2 try. $2. Holy smokes! It was 700 for 50 cents, wasn't it?
Yeah, so that'd be $2,800, just like what he posted right there.
Oh, there! I didn't see that. I was too excited about what he posted. Hey, drinks are on Curtis, and for once, it's not this Curtis. I love that. Good for you, man. That's all. Curtis Manlow's been in the, almost never misses a live stream of any of our shows. So it's great to see when our longtime listeners and friends can go ahead and make moves like that. Big cash is there. Jimmy Graham
Magic,
is the winning. Go ahead.
I was gonna say, does anybody have confidence game in our league?
John and Ryan are gonna. I think John's probably emailed Aaron saying he wants to claim him. So, you know what's funny? Well, Mike and I almost drafted this horse.
The reason I ask is I that's got to be one of the first times in many years that we've had the Rebel and the Louisiana Derby run, and no one had the both the winners. Like that's
the Risen Star. Yeah, you're right.
You how we've got 10 teams with 5 horses apiece. So you got 50 horses, and we can't seem to get a winner in these 50-point races.
Hey, that's right. It saves you from having to triple down on Jake Paul. That's right. Congratulations. You really got saved on that one. All right, here is and he just left. All right, there's our special guest. We haven't seen him since 2 days ago when he sent in the video for episode 600 Blinkers Off. Mr. Ryan Stillman. Ryan, you wanted to ask us a question.
Hey guys, thanks for having me on. Huge fan, first time caller to a live while. Anyways, great broadcast today. I just wanted to throw something out there and see if this is a hot take or not. Honestly, I figured maybe this would be good for you. My question is this a shitty crop, or is this a good crop? But the horses that are good in it, like the top level ones, just probably most likely aren't going to make the Derby. In other words, love Extranejo, love Forte, Cave Rock, Loggins, maybe the best Cox. I'm just throwing out to you guys. I would love to hear your take on this because I know how shitty what we're seeing is, but I just wanted your professional take on that, if that was asked in a way you can understand it.
I mean, I'll go first. If the horses we saw last year live up to what we saw last year, it's a very good crop without their stars that are running in it right now, right? Because look, Forte, Cave Rock, Extranejo could all be very good horses later in the 3-year-old season. We just haven't been able to see them, and we're not even talking about Loggins, who we all really liked as well. I mean, you have 4 horses who might be the top 4 horses in the crop who have yet to run a race in 2023. I mean, so if you take out the top 4 in any crop, it's going to be a mess. The one thing I will say about this crop, you don't see as many hey, that horse can be a really good sprinter when they cut back. hey, that horse would be a really good 1-turn mile when they cut back. We're seeing a lot of horses that are just average a 2-turn mile in the 16th type races who don't really have that specialty that you can point to when they leave those prep races. So that would, I would say, where the biggest weakness is. You don't have I can't wait to see this horse sprint horse. I can't wait to see this horse on turf horse. We're missing some of those. But if you inject those top 4 and they all run well, this is a good crop. We just don't have those 4 in right now.
Jared?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like it does seem that, to his point, like all our best horses, we keep saying we're waiting, extra Neho. I mean, like you look at our fantasy league, 4 of our top 10 haven't even ran yet. There might be more that but the 4 on the top of my head. So yeah, it's possible, but that we're sitting here thinking, well, Forte won the Travers, and Cave Rock won the Pacific or not, whatever it is later in the year. Like all these horses start to win these races. I think it's possible, but it just seems that underneath, like it just seems messier than more normal years. That underneath, like there's just no one that I feel like if it's not one of these horses, it's a horse like Tappet Trice or a horse like that's going to be peaking at the exact right, like hasn't ran in the prep race until the very end, basically, and then kind of is just coming on and runs that best race on the first Saturday of May. That seems like that's the kind of year it's going to be if it's not like Forte or Cave Rock. I still am on the I don't know that Cave Rock can win just because it's not going to be trained by Bob Baffert.
Yeah, that's fair.
I mean, and like I said, there's no logic behind that.
I'm watching the replay now. They're showing it. By the way, it was the 10-horse Bourbon Bash for the coach, Dwayne Lucas, that came out and, as Railbird said, molested Reincarnate.
Look, can I talk one more question? Unless you're about to answer.
Of course.
Okay. My other question to you guys is like this. So today we had the big meeting, in my opinion, and perhaps you guys have discussed it and I just missed it. I've had a lot going on, but like Cox versus Baffert, in my opinion, this is the first time we really started to see like some level of unquestionably top level of Cox horses meet unquestionably, mid-pack level Baffert, right? Like, because to me, Giant Mischief at that point on a lot of people's list, they would face probably top 3, right, of Cox trained horses. Okay, good. Did we walk away and learn anything? You guys mentioned about the Cox depth of his stable maybe being questionable. What is your take now about the Baffert side of that, now that you've just seen that? I'd love to hear that too. Did we learn something? Maybe we didn't. I just wondered if you guys took anything from that.
It's a great question. It's hard to say anything for sure because Baffert just gave up control. Baffert's had his hands on these horses up until this point. So it's hard to really say for sure what's going to happen. I think we'll learn a little bit more when we get a couple of weeks away from that and they have to officially be training for a different conditioner. Maybe not until the San Felipe Stakes, honestly, which I think is in 2 weeks. We'll probably be able to find out more. Mike, what do you think?
I love the fact that we're going to get to see 2 races for these Baffert horses in a new barn versus having one race where essentially they are trained by Baffert and then you go into the Derby and you're not sure what you're going to get. So I'm excited that we're going to have multiple efforts, including a second race in that barn, which means that you're going to see what happens to that horse when they do have a month away from whatever the program that Baffert has for that horse going. I would say today was a win for Baffert. I mean, if you're looking at it from Verifying and Giant Mischief are supposed to be 2 of Cox's best horses. They're 2 of the most hyped, that's for sure. They both got dusted by Reincarnate, who got a terrible trip. I mean, that's not a great sign, Now, then the question becomes how good are Giant Mischief and Verifying, right? Verifying had a rough trip as well. I'd be willing to give him more of a pass. Giant Mischief ran terribly. It's like Curtis, I know in the chat has been all over the Giant Mischief sucks because he ran second to a local horse at Remington in the Springboard Mile. Well, if that's the case, then you got to wonder, okay, Instant Coffee is then clearly his best horse, Cox's best horse. Hit Show's probably second at that point, if you're going to make that argument. And then, how would they have done here? Well, Instant Coffee dusted the horse that just won that race, right? So that would be kind of you probably didn't get either A team right now. That's what I would say from this. But if your thoughts were this is Cox's A team, Baffert definitely won today.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's hard to think, other than maybe Instant Coffee, it's hard to think of a higher rated Cox horse coming into today than verifying and Giant Mischief, really the way they were both bet here. Curtis Manlow, this will be the last thing we do before we give our Derby picks and get out of here. Curtis Manlow says the Derby Trail is like the NCAA tournament. The worse the top seeds are, the more fun the betting experience is. Could not agree with you more on that one. That is an excellent point and a great lead up to March Madness.
It's only fun when you pick the upset. It sucks when you pick the wrong upset and that horse doesn't win. It's a lot of fun if you have a confidence game. Not so much fun when you had Red Route 1.
All right, gentlemen, what we do every show at the end here, who is, Mike, I'll start with you so Ryan can think about it. Who is your Derby pick right now? The silence says it all.
Instant Coffee. I've hit my breaking point. Like, Forte hasn't been working well. We get to see him next week. We'll see what happens, but he has no pace. You really don't want to be a dead closer in the Derby unless you have two Japanese horses who go psycho up front. So, yeah, I mean, it could happen. It happened last year. So, yeah, I'll take Instant Coffee right now. I can't believe I just said
I'm going to stay with Cave Rock. He hasn't shown me why he shouldn't be my Derby pick. We haven't seen him, but he hasn't shown me why he isn't going to be the Derby winner. Ryan, who do you think wins the Derby? Who's your pick today?
Well, okay, so honestly, it's been Forte for a bit, the way this crop is panning out, but I got to be honest with you guys. I'm really starting to lean Arabian Night at this minute because I know how you guys kind of feel about him, like as a fan of your show and like listening to it, but it's starting to look like he's a decent horse in a very shitty crop pointing towards the Derby. Like even if he's the issues we're all seeing, I like the consistency, and he's just got that feeling of, to me, a horse that like Baffert thinks is really good. And let's say he's not the next Uncle Mo or the next great horse. You don't even need to be. Like, you need to be like a B. If you're a B+ this year, right, guys, tell me if I'm wrong, you probably could win the Derby. Like, so I'm just starting to think Cave Rock might just get running a little too late, and maybe he's the Preakness horse or something. I just kind of feel like he's the one horse that hasn't had, to my knowledge, any setbacks, that has that tinge of maybe just being above what we're seeing consistently. I'd love your thought on that before you go too, because that's where I'm at with it.
I just hate how he runs. He runs like he's trying to sideswipe someone with every step. He's like trying to bat the other horses away. And so the further you go, the more concerned I get, especially if you face pace pressure up front, because he's going to try and go gate to wire in the Derby, and that could be a tall ask. You want to be forwardly placed, but it's tough to be up front if you're not, especially with that running style. My other concern is, look, we got to see how these horses do 2 months out of Baffert's care, right? What are they going to be like when that second prep race? And we don't know that yet. And so it makes it hard for me to pick any Baffert. And I've been on the Cave Rock train because I think Cave Rock is the most talented horse that we've seen in this 3-year-old crop when he was a 2-year-old based off those efforts. But we're only 2 works in, no entries in a race. It's a point where I got to kind of stray from that. So yeah, I think he's awesomely talented. I think he's better going a mile. How about that?
I love that. I love that.
Go ahead, Ryan.
One thing before I remember kind of getting close with the trainer of Seattle Slews, Billy Turner, because you know me, guys. I like the history of the stuff, and he was really nice. And one of the things he told me was, it's not just having the greatest horse. It's like you have to have so much luck, and you guys know this. And I wonder if this feels like the kind of year, like the horse that wins it is just the luckiest horse, like who stayed the healthiest, had the least setbacks, trained every day, and got to the freaking race. And that's
timing is everything. Just ask Good Magic.
Yeah.
Well, you got to do that to me. I will say, before we get out of here, I think this is shaping up to be a better Preakness than a Kentucky Derby, because say Cave Rock doesn't make the Derby, he's going to go Preakness. You know, maybe he goes Sunland, Lexington, Preakness or something like that. Extra Añejo, as Houston said, it seems like Preakness is probably where we're going. Last we heard, Cox said the same thing about Loggins, and we're not sure what's going on with that horse. But hey, the Preakness looks like it might be a more bang for your buck kind of a race, because smaller field, more powerful horses in there. But hey, we'll find out. I want to say thank you to everybody who was joining us. Thank you to Ryan Stillman for coming in late with the question. Jared Welch, Jared, I know you had the rough internet at your parents' house, but you came on and gave us some great info. Thanks to Aaron for being live at Oaklawn Park on the rail, giving us some great shots that you can't see anywhere else. Shotty, thank you for being part of it. Thank you to the hundreds of you that were in the live chat. And of course, thank you to my co-host and my better half within the racing world, Mike Somich, for being here. Anything you guys want to say before we get out of here, or is that a wrap?
That's a wrap. We'll see you next week.
Sounds good. We'll be back next week. Fountain of Youth Stakes Day, a huge day at Gulfstream Park. I think 9 stakes, millions of dollars up for grabs in all those races. We're going to have a much more extensive live show covering everything at Gulfstream Park. So for Mike Somich, Ryan Stillman, and the Racing Dudes, thanks so much for joining us. We'll see you next time. RacingDudes.com is your home for the best free picks for every race, every track across the country. We're ramping up for the 2023 Kentucky Derby, and we want you to join us in the fun. Subscribe to Racing Dudes YouTube channel and click the notification bell so you never miss a single video. Want to make money betting horses? Bet with the Racing Dudes.